Welcome, folks, to the Aries Working Group call for October 16th, 2024. This is a Hyperledger now LFDT, LFT centralized trust call, so the antitrust policy and the code of conduct are in effect. Links on the wiki. Why does this say unpublished changes? That's edit mode. Did I not have published before? This new version of Confluence, I'm not quite used to all the things yet. But I'm going to put the link in the chat for the call. Weird, still says unpublished changes. Whatever, it's fine. So on the we've got some cool stuff on the agenda today. You're welcome to add yourself to the attendees list. Under anyone new today that would like to introduce themselves. I recognize all of you, but if anyone would like to reintroduce themselves, that would also be fine. All right, announcements. Did TDW has moved to the diff. Here is the agenda in Zoom link and a new URL as well that has output information on it. I anticipate TDW being a hot topic at IIW, which leads us to our next announcement. That's the 29th through the 31st, so we'll not be having a call then. I also have to look at the calendar. Next week is the Hyperledger Now LFDT Member Summit, and I will be there. And so I need to look at the schedule to see if I'll be able to actually host this call or not. I would like to if I can, but if there's a schedule conflict, then it might be a little bit harder. So I'll message about that. And then after IW, the 6th, we'll get to this in a minute, but will be the first call in the Open Wallet Foundation interoperability SIG. The wallet interoperability SIG there, which is going to be the replacement for this call, where we will cover similar topics and keep the conversation going. So that's happening there. Any announcements that we should have on the list but don't? All right. Anyone want to share any release status or work updates? I know the ACAPUG had their call over in the OWF for the first time yesterday. Was anyone there that could share anything? Like, did it work, etc.? Have all the things been ironed out?
Yep, I was there. It did seem like everybody was able to find their way to the new Zoom room, which was good in that transition.
Awesome.
So yeah, it went well.
Good. That is good to hear. I was unable to make it to that, but yeah. Cool. Anything else before we dive into our agenda? Okay, so we have a quick cover of the kind of the state that we're actually in. All the project proposals have been accepted by the OWF. There's still marketing stuff. I'll have a link down below about that. Stuff that we will publish on the wiki here to help people find stuff that need to find stuff. And so we'll be working on that. The new wallet interop SIG over there. They're alternating weeks. It'll be the same time slot and an hour later in order to match this time slot as close as we can, but not interfere with the TAC, which will pull Stephen away from that. And the scopes, this is a little bit to be determined in the new call as we sort of figure that out, but the scope includes, obviously, concerns of interoperability. So interop profiles, interopathons, also awareness and movements within wallet efforts that can help the community kind of be aware of what's happening is super useful there. and awareness of new concepts and ideas. Actual spec related stuff will need to happen in the appropriate place elsewhere, but awareness of is certainly highly valuable for that. And then the timing, here are so the 6th is the first one, and it will be at this time. This is the week after IW. And then the following week will be 1 hour later, that shifts that for to avoid the tack. And of course, we've pre-calculated some holiday meetings in there as well. So the day after Christmas and New Year's Day will not have regular meetings, and then resuming on the 8th in January, which is cool. The other thing about messaging is here in the agenda is a link to a page that needs some review and updates, to make this accurate, so that this will be the content that quite shortly we post on the main Aries page in the wiki, so that we can help people find the new stuff that's actually going on. And so this has the relevant things, and needs to have the updated links for both the meetings and the repositories. But the Aries sort of main call will need to happen there. So this needs some updates, but in particular, the messaging here is something to be aware of. So if you have suggestions on things to add or remove or change from this, then please do take a look, so that we can have that all buttoned up and ready to go when we need it. A good reminder there. Any questions about this or the plans for it or anything else? All right. So the Aries RFC, last week we did an amazing job cleaning up pull requests that have existed for various amounts of time in the Aries RFC repo. And so some of those things like to get cleaned up today. And so there's a couple of those. And so that this is where your feedback and thoughts about whether we merge this or what changes are needed or everything else, what we actually do with this is really useful. On my to-do list was to update this, and I have done so with a note at the top here. Let me look at the rendered view. That actually points to the credential trust establishment spec work. This had some sort of very early concept stuff around governance frameworks, and the work, of course, has progressed in a much more clean and organized way over the credential trust establishment spec. So this just points to that as a note there. But then the idea that we talked about last week was to merge it anyway, so that this can be retained, and people can find the concept and then see the note, of course, that need to be updated. Any thoughts there, or any objections to merging 535 given that update? All right, any final objections? All right. That is done. So the next one up was this one, the compression that Kim wrote, and then the updates. It looks like Daniel beat you to the index conflict. So I think this one's ready to merge, given our conversation there. Is that the right understanding?
That is my understanding.
Cool. Awesome. Anyone opposed to merging? You gotta speak up before I get to the button. Let's see. I can do the update. This happened because I merged the other one, but this should be fine. All right, that is merged. So here's this one. This is Patrick St. Louis. This is the an alternate proposal for the VCDI credential request. Um, so last week's comment, oh, that's nice. I didn't even put the, just got sometime in 2024. It's very helpful. Hard to merge, given the changes, but could be useful in a note on the RFC. So this hasn't been updated since the last time, which makes it more difficult to merge. This is listed as a draft status, which I think means that I actually can't change until it's marked as ready for review. Patrick is not here. We will let that one sit. The next one up here is the VDR proxy comments that he has there. And then this is happening. We discussed this on the 11th of last month. This is going to be something that I present at IAW, which is strategies for handling message flows inside of DIDCOM. So I'll be talking about how to sort of sequence things together, strategies that work that are both simple but don't horizontally scale, and also strategies that do horizontally scale for how to coordinate sort of state movement through a flow of messages. So I think one of the things that we could do is that the strategies that I'll be talking about don't actually affect the flow of the protocol at all, meaning the protocols still work the way the protocols work, but it's just how to handle that actually inside of code. So I think that my proposal is that we merge this and then still follow it up with an important discussion about strategies for handling protocol flow and stuff like that. Any thoughts on that approach? This is not one we got to discuss last week. We ran out of time before we got through all of them. Anyone opposed to merging this, given that the stuff I'll be doing, it doesn't really change this RFC itself as part of that process? All right, I'm going to go ahead and do that. This needs an approving review. All right, any last objections? All right. Merged, and I think we then have maybe just the one more. And this is a Dependabot, which is just fine. Cool. So we're left with only the one Patrick St. Louis one, and we can reach out and chase that before next week. Are there any other comments that folks have about the Aries RFC repo? It will need some text changes to the front indicating its status is frozen, and the PRs will be accepted, but only if it points to new locations of work. In that way, this still remains as a repository that can point to new places, but otherwise will not be accepting any new specific content, with new things to be created in, for example, the interop SIG at the OWF or over in the DIDCOM users group or in other places as appropriate. Any other comments on that? Awesome. We made some good steps with the RFCs. We're at the end of our agenda today. Is there now's a good time for open discussion, any topics that folks want to bring up and discuss? All right, I imagine at IW there'll be discussions of TDW, I'm anticipating. Also likely some discussions around the OWF move for the Aries projects, at least in passing, or as a way of sort of updating folks on what's happening there. And then we will start those calls. I will try to host a meeting next week just for folks that happen to be dropping in and wondering what's going on. But I don't know that we have a huge amount of agenda items unless there's discussion around the stuff that we'll be posting as a result of that on the wiki, etc., to make that happen, and the Aries RFC changes as well. So I'll be working on those this week. And those will be available for review. And then as the call details iron out, then we'll have the actual links and the calendar stuff as well to make that happen. So I'll be sure to share that broadly so that we can keep track of that and then end up with folks arriving on the new call at the week after IIW. Any questions, comments about anything at all? Well, awesome, folks. Appreciate you being here, and we will see you next week and elsewhere. And hope your gray is your gray. I hope your day is a great one as I mix my words together. Thanks for coming. We'll see you around.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.